In music composition, the notes are the tools that create the melody, the harmony. But rests create depth. They add anticipation, expectation. Sometimes rests create tension, or sometimes rests relieve tension.
Well, I found a place where I can finally be a part of the story, and I've been embraced by the wonderful arms of glory, and there is nowhere else I'd rather be. Come on, sing. 'Cause I believe your spirit is alive and on the move. Oh, I want to be caught up in the middle of you. I want to be a part of what I know you're gonna do. Oh, I want to be caught up in the middle of you. And I finally see the very reason for my existence, and I am complete when I am standing within your presence. And now I know where I'm supposed to be. 'Cause I believe your spirit is alive and on the move. Oh, I want to be caught up in the middle of you. I want to be a part of what I know you're gonna do. Oh, I want to be caught up in the middle of you. You have called, and you have called me all along, and this is right where I belong. Caught up in you, caught up in you. Sing it out. 'Cause I believe your spirit is alive and on the move. Oh, I want to be caught up in the middle of you. I want to be a part of what I know you're gonna do. Oh, I want to be caught up in the middle of you. Caught up in the middle. Oh, caught up in the middle. Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. Greatest love that anyone could ever know. It overcame the cross and grave to find my soul. Until I see you face to face, and grace amazing takes me home. I'll trust in you. With all I am, I live to see your kingdom come. And in my heart, I pray you let your will be done. Until I see you face to face, and grace amazing takes me home. I'll trust in you. And I will live to love you. And I will live to bring you praise. I will live a child in all of you. You are the voice that called the universe to be. You are the whisper in my heart that speaks to me. Until I see you face to face, and grace amazing takes me home. I'll trust in you, Lord, and I will live to love you, and I will live to bring you praise. I will live a child in all of you. I want to sing that again. And I will live to love you, and I will live to bring you praise. I will live a child in all of you, Lord. Sing you alone, 'cause you alone are God of all. You alone are worthy, Lord, and with all I am, my soul will bless your name. Sing it again. 'Cause you alone are God of all. You alone are worthy, Lord, and with all I am, my soul will bless your name. Bless your name, O Lord. Sing, I will live, and I will live. Say, lift your voice. Love you, and I will live to bring you praise. I will live a child in all of you. Our lives we just surrender to you, God. And I will live to love you, and I will live to bring you praise. I will live a child in all of you. In all of you, Lord. Yes, Lord. Before I spoke a word, you were singing over me. You have been so, so good to me. Before I took a breath, you breathed your life in me. You have been so, so kind to me. And oh, the overwhelming, never-ending, reckless love of God. Oh, it chases me down, fights till I'm found, leaves the 99. And I couldn't earn it, and I don't deserve it. Still you give yourself away. Oh, the overwhelming, never-ending, reckless love of God. Hey. When I was your foe, When I was your foe, still your love fought for me. And you have been so, so good to me. When I felt no worth, you paid it all for me. Still you have been so, so kind to me. Come on, is he good? Oh, the overwhelming, never-ending, reckless love of God. Oh, it chases me down, fights till I'm found, leaves the 99, and I couldn't earn it, and I don't deserve it. Still you give yourself away. Oh, the overwhelming, never-ending, reckless love of God. Hey, hey. There's no shadow you won't light up, mountain you won't climb up, coming after me. There's no wall you won't kick down, lie you won't tear down, coming after me. Come on, sing it again. There's no shadow you won't light up, mountain you won't climb up, coming after me.
Turn your Bibles to Ezekiel chapter 20, verse 12 and 13. Ezekiel 20, 12 and 13. Ezekiel is a prophet of the Lord, and he's in a country, in a nation, the nation of Israel, where, hey, they're just not living right. You know, look, when people say, hey, look, we need to be like Israel, be careful. Because for the most of Israel's history, they were not obedient to the Lord. They just lived stupid. How many of you know you can have a sudden attack of stupidity and keep hold of it for a long time? You can find Stupidville without a map. Are you with me? And Israel was in the midst of that when Ezekiel was prophesying. And he's saying to them, and we're just going to jump in kind of partway through what he was saying. He said, also, I gave them my Sabbaths. Say, I gave them my Sabbaths. Now, this is the Lord. He's speaking for the Lord. He's saying that God gave Israel his Sabbaths to be a sign between me and them. Say, a Sabbath is a sign. That they might know that I'm the Lord who sanctifies, but the house of Israel rebelled against me in the wilderness. They did not walk in my statutes. They rejected my ordinances, and by which, if a man observes them, he will live, and my Sabbaths they greatly profaned. Say this, say, they profaned my Sabbaths. Yeah. I was in a meeting a number of years ago in Carlisle, Pennsylvania. And I would go there and we would meet with a group of pastors from all over this part of the state, Delaware, New York, the Poconos. We would all kind of meet because that was a centralized place. And I remember we usually sat at different tables. We'd have lunch together and we'd fellowship and so on. And there was one pastor who was like a chatty Cathy. You know what I'm talking about? I mean, this guy, he could pour out the words. And he would do it in such a way that after a while, it got annoying. All right? Have you ever been around someone that they just don't take the cues from other people they're around? Like when other people are like giving them cues like, okay, you're talking too much. They don't take those cues. You know what I mean? Don't point at anyone here, okay? But this pastor was like that, and I mean, he just talked unceasingly. And I remember thinking to myself, how long can this guy talk and say nothing? And right then, the moment I had that thought, the Lord spoke to me and said, be still and listen. Because I was about to shut him off. You know how it is when someone just goes on and on and on. You kind of just, and you have to insulate yourself. And I was about to insulate. I was about to shut him off, and the Lord said, stop, be still and listen. It was just then this pastor spoke the most amazing revelation, and for months I chewed on those words. Now think about that for a minute. Those words changed the way I thought, and they even changed the way I lived. I almost missed what the Lord said through that pastor, and I would have missed something that affected my life for months. I want to talk about that. I want to talk about something that maybe we have been missing. I want to talk about something that when it's missing from our life, we tend to fear a whole lot more. We tend to be anxious a whole lot more. We tend not to be, we know that the Lord is good. Come on, I know most of us in this room, and I know you know that the Lord is good, and I also know that at times you get frustrated because you know the Lord is good, and you know the Lord intends to work out all things for the good of those who love him and are called according to his purposes. You quote that scripture. And you have to quote that scripture sometimes because you've got to remind yourself, because at times that isn't what life is handing out to you. Anybody know what I'm talking about? Yeah. And I've asked the Lord over and over about that because, see, I believe there should be a marked difference between the people of God and those that are not the people of God. I believe the blessing of the Lord should be poured out on the people of God. The favor of God should be poured out on the people of God. And sometimes I don't see that. And I don't think we should make excuses for God. I don't think we need to make excuses for God. I don't think the problem is his. I think we blame him oftentimes, but I don't know that the problem is his. I think sometimes that the problem may be ours, and maybe that we're missing something. It may be there's something that we should pay attention to, and I think this might be one of those moments. This might be one of those moments where oftentimes you come on a Sunday morning and you hear wah, 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 wah. You know, and I understand. I get it. I mean, my kids and my wife have been hearing me preach for years. Joshua and Jackie don't know a time in their lives where they weren't listening to me preach. And maybe you're here and you're thinking, you know, hey, I've heard a lot and a lot of it sounds the same, wah, 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 wah. But can I say to you, be still for a minute and listen. Pause. Everyone say, hit the pause button. Because there might be something that might make a difference in your life, that might change something in your life significantly. You know, music has always been a part of my life. When I was a kid, I grew up, one of my favorite places to go was to my Grandma Williams' house. Why do we call it Grandma Williams? Grandpa lived there too. We would say we're going to Grandma's house, right? I guess maybe because Grandpa was a little the quieter of the two. And any time we got together, I loved when we had big family gatherings, like Thanksgiving or Christmas or holidays, or if they could figure out a reason to get together, they were going to get together, and we were going to eat together, and the cousins were going to play. But there was something that I always enjoyed that would happen after we were done eating. They would start pulling out the instruments. They would pull out the guitars and the banjos and the mandolins. And we would sit around and we would sing, and the aunts and uncles would sing and play. And my grandfather, he had his little mandolin that he'd be playing, and he would be drinking his Mogan David wine, and, you know, he would get a little lean to him at times. But it was a fun time as a kid. I remember and music's always been a big part of my life. I learned to play the guitar and then the keyboard, and I led worship here for a while, and I love worship, I love music, and it's a big part of my life. And I wonder about music. I mean, if you think about it, music is like a small bite of life. It moves us. It motivates us. It calms us. Well, we watched the movie last night, A Star is Born. Crystal and I were talking before the meeting, and I've not really been a big fan of Lady Gaga, but I'm telling you, she played an incredible role in this movie. Yeah, I'm not trying to promote this movie in particular, but I'm telling you, there were some lines in this movie that and the songs in it, wow. It was amazing. I kind of gave you a little bit of a clue, but can you put that symbol up here? Can someone tell me what that is?
It's a rest.
Thank you, Mr. Music. What is it, Dave?
It's a rest.
It's a rest.
Half rest.
It's a rest. Can you tell me the official term?
Half rest.
Carmen, you know? Semi-breve is the actual term of that symbol, semi-breve.
You don't know that.
Yeah. I looked it up this morning. That's the only reason I knew. It's a rest. There was a quote in this movie that was really interesting. Sam Elliott. I love Sam Elliott. He's just the coolest gentleman. I tried to pull off the big Sam Elliott mustache. I just couldn't do it. It just didn't work for me. But I love Sam Elliott, right? Because he just got that swag to him, I mean, he's just like, and he always says cool things. He could read out of the telephone book and he would be cool. John Smith, 724. He's just cool, right? But he said this. He was so one of the stars, the guy that played the Bradley Cooper, his character, he died. Oh, shoot. No, wait, I'm kidding. No, wait, I'm not. That'd be lying. Anyway, rewind the tape. Yeah, it's an old movie. Okay, yeah. Anyway, but he's sitting there and he's talking. He's saying, he said his brother used to say this all the time, that music is nothing more than 12 notes. I mean, that's all there is. I mean, if you'd go up here on the keyboard, and if you'd count from here, all right, that's C. And if you go to the next C, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 9, 10, 11, 12. 12 notes. That's all there is. He said this, he said, music's nothing more than 12 notes between two octaves. But every artist has the ability, their creativity is how they express those 12 notes. I mean, between all of us here, we could name thousands and thousands of songs, and none of them would be the same. It's just 12 notes. How is that possible? How is it possible you can take something like 12 individual notes? Music's such an amazing thing. I believe this. I believe the soul is made to be moved by music. I believe that. I mean, just watch a 2-year-old. Just watch them. Put on a march and watch the 2-year-old, and they'll start bouncing. You don't have to tell them to do that. You don't teach them. Man is made to respond to music. Woman is made to respond to music. Are you with me? Bang your hands together if you believe that. Yeah. So I'm not telling you something you don't know, but there's this thing in music called the rest. The rest. See, a rest in music is just as important as a note. In music composition, the notes are the tools that create the melody, the harmony. But rests create depth. They add anticipation, expectation. Sometimes rests create tension, or sometimes rests relieve tension. Rests give time to catch our breath and let the music itself breathe. A rest in music is when the music pauses. Pauses, not stops. The timing continues, but the notes are not being played, and it's for the purpose of creating anticipation for what's about to come next. See, notes indicate when I am to play. Rests indicate when I am to allow silence or another's music to fill the room. I want to talk this morning about the importance of the rest. See, God wanted to take his people into the promised land. God formed this people. God's always after a people, his family. He's all about developing his family. Are you with me? This is a relational thing with God. If you're making your walk with God about religion, you're making it about the wrong thing. If it's about rules and regulations, if it's about a certain thing on the outside without having the relational connection on the inside, you're going to miss the point. It's like having music with no feeling. It's the whole point of music is to cause you to feel. Are you with me? And so God wants to take his people into the promised land. Ezekiel is talking about this in Ezekiel chapter 20. He said he's prophesying to Israel, reminding them what took place when God wanted to take them into the promised land. He says, so I took them out of the land of Egypt and brought them into the wilderness. I gave them my statutes, the statutes, how they were to behave, and informed them of my ordinances. What's the difference between ordinances and statutes? Statutes are how I'm to behave. Ordinances are how God would judge our behavior. Are you with me? And by which, if man observes them, he will live. Now let me just pause here. See, some of us think that, okay, so God says he gave us statutes and ordinances, and as long as we do them, then we get to live. That word doesn't just mean the opposite of death. Not in the sense that we tend to think about it. Oh, gee, how nice of God. I obey him and he lets me live. No. When God gives life, how many of you know it's something far greater than just the ability for your heart to beat and you to breathe? When God gives his life, how many of you know it is his breath that is on the inside of you and the kind of life that he desires for you? Are you with me? It's the eternal kind of life. It's what was spoken of in John chapter 3, that he would give us eternal life. It was the God kind of life. Everyone say the God kind of life. How many of you know that's the ideal kind of life? And so he's saying, look, let me teach you out of relationship how you're to behave, and I'm going to tell you how I'm going to judge you. I'm going to, we got to be careful because see that word judge. I saw the look on some of your faces. When you hear the word judge, you're like, judge not lest you be judged. I don't judge people. Well, you should be. You say, wait a minute, we're not supposed to judge. No, that isn't what it says. It says, judge not lest ye be judged. For the measuring stick which you use will be used on you. In other words, you're to judge rightly. Not judge in the sense of condemning, but judge in the sense of discerning. Of course are you telling me you don't judge for your kids? Man, when I see them watching something on TV that they shouldn't be watching, of course I judge. I'm going to say, whoa, stop, don't do that. Oh, that behavior there, that's not a good behavior. Why do I do that to my son? Because I hate him? Because I want to control him? No, because I love my child. If he would spout off at me, I'm not going to tolerate that. Why? Because I'm insecure? No. That has nothing to do with my security. It has to do with I want my son to be a good man. And if he's going to want to be respected, if he wants to be respected, then he has to respect. If he wants to be a man of authority, he has to be a man under authority. Are you with me? And so look, God does the same thing. Are you with me? When God judges, can you think of it in a different way? Can we substitute the word judges for coaches? God coaches. And he's saying, look, I have my statutes, and I'm going to coach you in how to live according to the way I want you to live. And if you do, you're going to have the kind of life that I want you to have, which is the best kind of life you could possibly have. Oh, and by the way, I have these things called Sabbaths I want you to observe. You know, and it almost sounds like Sabbath doesn't quite fit with statutes and ordinances. I mean, God's telling us about what he wants us to do, how he wants to go about it, and I got to suggest to you that contained in what he wants us to do, the first part of that is who you really are, and he coaches you in that too. He tells you who you really are, and out of who you really are is what you'll accomplish or what you'll do. Are you with me? And then he's going to coach you in that process, and he says, oh, and by the way, I have these things called Sabbaths. Now Ezekiel's prophesying, and he's telling Israel, look, you didn't listen to the statutes. You denied my ordinances. You denied my coaching. I'm telling you, Israel, wait, stop doing that and do this. And Israel ignored God. And it says they even denied or profaned his Sabbaths. Well, what is that? I mean, after all, it's a Sunday? They profaned his Sundays? I mean, isn't the Sabbath a Sunday? No, it's not. That isn't what it means. The word Sabbath means rest. It's the rest. It's the pause. Hebrews 4:1 said, therefore let us fear if, while a promise remains of entering rest, any one of you may seem to have come short of it. For we, verse 3, for we who have believed enter that rest. Verse 11, therefore let us be diligent to enter that rest, so that no one will fall through following the same example of disobedience. Wait a minute. What's obedience have to do with rest? I mean, isn't rest just sleeping? Well, if rest were sleeping, then every morning after sleeping 8 hours, you would wake up feeling fully vibrant, but that doesn't always happen, does it? You'll rest or you'll sleep for a whole night and wake up exhausted. Anyone ever done that? You see, sleep and rest aren't the same thing. As a matter of fact, you can rest and never sleep. Are you with me? I wouldn't advise it. God doesn't recommend it. Sleep oftentimes comes in rest. But what really is rest? It's the pause. It's the stopping. It's the ceasing from you doing, but it's not just emptiness. See, if we had a large orchestra, we would each have different sheet music. Let's say over here is the woodwinds, and over here is the brass, and here's the percussion. Well, the stringed instruments would be like the cellos and the big bass and the viola and the violins. And the violins have different music than the trumpets and the trombones. And sometimes this whole section in their music, it has a rest. Why? So we can hear the violins. And sometimes there's only one instrument playing. Now, why do we do that? It's so we can only hear that instrument. That's a rest for you. Stop playing. Stop working. Stop being busy. And pause and listen. God wrote that into the music of life. He wrote it in every 7 days. There's a rest. Stop, pause. Stop working. I got to make money. I got to clean the house. Look, you have 6 other days. Can I suggest to you that if you observe the rest, you will be more productive in the 6 other days? Well, here, watch. Let me prove it to you. I want to take a second and just look at the first time that the rest is mentioned in the Word of God. Genesis 2:1 says, "Thus the heavens and the earth were completed, and all their hosts. By the 7th day God completed his work which he had done, and he rested." Everyone say, he rested. That word rested literally is the word Sabbath. He Sabbathed on the 7th day from all his work which he had done. See, there's a condition to entering into rest. This might be why you haven't been able to enter into rest. This may be why you can't pause. This may be why your mind just keeps going and you can't hear God. This could be why you just can't stop working, because you feel like if you don't stop working, then you're not doing what you're supposed to be doing. Could it be that there are conditions so that you can enter into rest? I believe there are. And I believe God shows us in his example that he gave for us in the 2nd chapter of the Bible. It says, "Thus the heavens and the earth were completed." Everyone say completed. "And all their hosts." In other words, and all the angels, they're all created. "And by the 7th day, God completed his work which he had done, and he rested." So there are 2 conditions. Condition number one is do what you're supposed to do. That's the first condition of rest. You can't enter into rest unless you do what you're supposed to do. Come on, somebody. But may I suggest to you, what you're supposed to do isn't what you feel like you have to do. Sometimes they're different. Because oftentimes you do things because of what people will think, or you do things out of fear, or you do things out of this misplaced sense of responsibility. I mean, I was taught to work hard growing up. My dad taught us to work very hard growing up. The problem is I would carry that too far, and I felt like I wasn't being good unless I was working. That I wasn't making God happy unless I was doing something for him. But if we ignore the rest, if we ignore the Sabbath, if we don't from time to time stop doing and let God speak, let him play, let his music resonate within me, then I can't get what I need for the next 6 days. A condition of entering into rest is, number one, do what you're supposed to do in the first 6 days. That's number one. Number two, after you're done doing what you're supposed to do, leave it alone. Say that it's good. You say, but it's not perfect. Do you know that God didn't even say that it was perfect? He said it was good. Do you know why? Because he was setting an example for you and me. It's good. Let me ask you something. In that first 6 days of the week, did you do the best you could? Well, yeah. Yeah, I did. Then say it's good and leave it alone. Say it's good and leave it alone. Here's why. You can't rest unless you do that. Because it's always going to be, I should have. My wife's grandmother, bless her heart, she would cook for the whole family every Thanksgiving, every Easter. And I'm telling you, we would sit down to the table and we'd all be excited because she would have stuffed shells, and she would have turkey for us, and she would have gravy, and she would have homemade bread. I'm telling you, she would have every good thing. She would have, what's that stuff you drink? The punch, yeah. She would have punch, and she would have chocolate pie, and she would have banana cream pie, and she would have all this stuff. And I'm telling you, guaranteed, we called her Nah. That was just how we knew her and know her. We call her Nah. And Nah would invariably, as she's handing out the food, she would say, oh, well, the turkey's a little bit overdone. And, that chocolate pie just didn't turn out quite the way I thought it should turn out. Anybody know what I'm talking about? Yeah. Don't do that. Yeah. Leave it alone. Say it was good. You did the best you know how. Now enjoy it. Are you with me? How many of you know you can't enjoy what you did unless you can say it was good? And listen, good doesn't mean perfect. Good means you did the best you knew how. And that's good enough. It's good enough for God. Why can't it be good enough for you? Are you better than God? Oh, now he just went past preaching and went to meddling. All right. Condition number 1, it's complete. Condition number 2, leave it alone. Everyone say that with me. To enter into rest, I have to do what I'm supposed to do, and then leave it alone. You just sometimes can't leave it alone, can you? You told them what you needed to tell them. Leave it alone. They heard you. They don't have to react the way you think they should react. It doesn't need to turn out the way you think it should turn out. If at the end of 6 days it's done, then it's done. Then say, you know what? It's good enough, and I leave it alone. That's the 2 conditions needed to enter into rest. Now, verse 3. Then God blessed the 7th day and sanctified it, because in it he rested from all his work which he had created and made. So, if you can do your part, you do what you have to do in the 6 days he gives you to do it, and then you say, it's good enough, I leave it alone, then you can walk into rest. Now watch this. God blessed the 7th day and sanctify it. So your part is to do what you're supposed to do and then leave it alone. You say, Pastor, I'm sorry. I just can't leave it alone. I'm a perfectionist. No, you're not. You're a wannabe. You ain't never made anything perfect in your whole life. There's always some room for improvement somewhere. You can't make things perfect. Come on. There's still a fallen nature in this world. You can't do that. So stop trying. Now, but let me give you the encouragement. You say, well, but I want to walk in excellence. Oh, sweetie, I know you do. Me too. Now, see, there's a difference between walking in excellence and wanting to be perfect. Come on. Well, let me show you how. See, I can show you how to walk in excellence by doing what I'm telling you to do. Number 1, do what you're supposed to do to the best ability that you're supposed to do it, then leave it alone. Everyone say that. I do what I'm supposed to do to the best ability that I can do it, and then I leave it alone. You say, well, what if it's not excellent? Okay. See, you did your part. Now watch. Let's let God do his part. See, because when you enter into rest, it says that God takes what you give and he blesses it and sanctifies it. Now, what does that mean? When he blesses something, he is placing his favor on it, and then it is able to do what it is supposed to do. The problem is, if you keep hold of it, if you don't let it alone, then he won't pick it up. If you try to make it perfect, then he won't. But if you let it go, he'll pick it up because you worked according to his will for 6 days and you present it to him on the 7th day. You say, Lord, I have come with my life for this last 6 days, and I have left it alone because you said I could trust you to finish what I began. Are you with me? And so what we do, we present it to God, and we allow God to bless it, and then he sanctifies it. So not only does he bless it, because how many of you know blessing is different than being sanctified? You know what sanctified means? Someone would say, well, that means to make holy. Okay, yay. What in the world does that mean? Well, it means that there's little fat angels walking around with little bows and bink, oh, I love you, bink, I love you. No, that's not what holy means. Holy means to be separated from what to what? It means to be separated from this earth to heaven. Listen to what it does. Listen to what happens. When I take what I'm supposed to do and I do it to the best of my ability, and then I leave it alone and I present it to God because I'm entering into his rest, because I'm able to enter into his rest because I did what I was supposed to do and I left it alone. Now I'm able to enter into his rest. I bring everything I've done into his rest. He takes and he blesses it, which means he makes it so that it will do what it's supposed to do. And then he sanctifies it. Or I like a little different word. He kingdomizes it. He takes it out of this realm and causes it to function in that realm, where it has no longer just a temporal effect, but it has an eternal effect. Oh, come on, somebody. See, the problem is you don't trust what you've done with your kids. And because you don't trust what you've done with your kids, you keep holding on to it. You won't leave it alone. Leave it alone. Give it to him. Trust him. Enter into his rest. Look, I understand at times that's work. I get it. I realize when you see things not going the right way, especially with your kids or with your wife or with your husband or with your work, it's hard sometimes not to get in there and try to do something, because the enemy kind of whispers in our ear and say, you better do something or else this is going to happen, or if you don't do something this, or if you don't stop that. Come on, anyone know what I'm talking about? Yeah. Just tell that voice to say, shut up, I'm resting. Yeah. You don't have a problem telling that to your kids when you're taking a nap. Are you with me? Amen. Get out of here! There's nothing worse than when you're in a sound nap and you hear knock, 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 knock. What? TV's not working. So go play outside. Oh, never mind. That was too close to home. I shouldn't be talking about that. All right. Matthew 11:28, we're closing with this. Matthew 11:28 through 30 says, come to me, all you who are weary and heavy laden, and I will give you rest. Take my yoke upon you, and you'll learn from me, for I am gentle and humble in heart, and you'll find rest for your souls. For my yoke is easy, and my burden is light. Hebrews 4:11, therefore, let us be diligent to enter that rest, so that no one will fall through following the same example of disobedience. I believe, absolutely believe, that fear grips people's hearts because we do not rest. I believe, absolutely believe, that things are not working the way that God says they will work because we do not enter rest. I believe, fully believe, that we can actually interfere with the plans of God. Please stop saying, if God intended it, well, then it's going to work out that way. Listen, you can have a hand in that, both positively and negatively. And may I suggest that if you do not learn to enter into the rest of God, you can frustrate the plans of God. He won't pick up what you're taking hold of. If you can't give it to him, he won't. He refuses to. What kind of loving father is that? If you say, no, Father, I have to keep hold of it. You know what he'll do? He'll allow you to keep hold of it until you are so frustrated, until you are so broken, until you are so filled with fear, until you are so overwhelmed that you finally come to him and say, Father, what shall I do? I remember in business not knowing what to do. I had a customer who wouldn't pay me the insurance premiums that they owed. And I have to pay the insurance company regardless. And this was a large contract. This was back in the late 80s. And the payment for that month was $80,000. And the customer told me, I don't have the money. Well, then we have to cancel the insurance because I can't pay it. And I called the broker, and the broker said, we can't cancel it. He said, you have to pay it. I don't have $80,000 extra dollars. I'm telling you, I was scared to death. Because, you know, with insurance companies, here's how it works. If you don't pay the premium to the insurance company, they just cancel your contract. The insurance commission comes in and shuts you down. They lock the place up. That's it. You're done. You're out of business. That fast. Boom, done. We were just getting our insurance company out, our head above water, and this happens. And I remember being so filled with fear and so filled with anxiety, and I didn't know what to do. And I remember I called my dad. Thank God for dads. I said, Dad, I don't know what to do. He hated when I golfed. He thought I should be working. Remember, he's the one that taught me how to work. You know what he said to me that day? He said, close the office up and go golfing. Excuse me, I must have the wrong number. He said, no, seriously. He said, there's nothing you can do. And I hung up the phone. This was about 3 o'clock in the afternoon. We closed at 5. And I said, hey, everyone, let's have early quits today. And I remember I was too nervous to golf. I was too afraid to golf. I wouldn't have enjoyed it. I know, can you believe that, Jason? Yeah, Jason's like, oh, not me, brother. But I said, Lord, there's got to be something I can do. He said, yeah, there is. He said, come visit with me. And I remember everyone left. The last person left the office. And I remember I went into my office, and I got down on my carpet, and I cried like a baby because I was scared to death. I didn't know what to do. I didn't know what was going to happen. I didn't know whether I was going to be in business the next day or not. And I said to the Lord, Lord, I don't know what to do. I said, but you know what? The only thing I knew to do was to give it to him. And I said, Lord, you know what? From this day forward, this business is yours. If it rises, it's you. If it falls, it's you. I said, it's not like I absconded money or anything. My client wouldn't pay me. I can't pay the insurance company. What do I do? Did you ever feel that way? Did you ever feel like there's things happening to you that are causing your heart to be shredded and you don't have any control over it? You say, well, I don't have anything to give. Yes, you do. Give that to God. Enter into his rest. You've done everything you know to do. Now leave it alone. And I went to the Lord, and I got down on my face, and I cried out to him, and I said, Lord, I don't know what to do, and so I give it all to you. And you know what he said to me? He said these words, good. That's what I've been needing you to do all along. He said, I've been waiting for you to give this to me. Could you have sent me a memo, please? He just laughed. He said, son, it's going to be okay. How many of you know those words sounded pretty doggone hollow? Hey, look, I love prophets. I prophesy. But I'm telling you, sometimes you all sound really hollow. When you tell me everything's going to be all right, and I got fear gripping my heart, and I'm overwhelmed, and I'm anxious, and I'm going crazy on the inside. Oh, I don't ever let you see it, of course. What's the problem? The problem is I didn't enter into rest. I didn't take the time to give my 6 days in the week to him. Because I did everything I knew to do, but I didn't give it to him. And the moment I gave it to him, he said to me, he said, everything's going to be fine. So after crying, leaving a puddle on my carpet, I go home that day, cry a little bit more to Janice. She says to me, it's going to be okay. Thanks, prophet. Listen, I talked to that client. There was no way they were going to be able to pay us. Do you know the next day, there's a check for $80,000 on my countertop. That client paid. Their money came in that night, and they were able to pay us right away. And I'm telling you, it worked. But I learned something in that moment. I learned to rest. I learned, what if before we get all in knots, what if before we get all frustrated, what if before I get the shakes and I get stomach acid to where I got to take some Tums, or worse yet, I've got to have some kind of operation because I wore a hole in my stomach because of worry. What if before all of that, what if I did the best that I knew how, and then I rested? If I gave it to him and said, Lord, it's good enough. It's good. That's a hard word to say. It's good enough. Stand up with me, by the way. Why are you sitting? I'm standing up. Come on, somebody. What if, I mean, come on, right now. Life up until now. Right up until yesterday. Right up until 12:01 midnight this past night. What if you look back on all that and says, it is good? Some of you can't do that. Because you're saying right now that it's not good. And what you mean, it's not perfect. You say, no, actually, I don't. I mean that it's not good. You did the best you knew how. Up until this point, you did the best you knew how. You say, no, there's other things I could have done. If you would have thought that way was better, you would have done it. I'm telling you, I'm convinced. I need you right now. No, you need you right now to say to God, it is good. My life, up until this, it doesn't matter what kind of life you've lived up until now. You cannot go back and change it. And guess what? Your life got you to this point. And right now you are standing facing God. And that is good. So the result of your life right now, leading up until this moment, the result of it is good. And if the result of it is good, then you can say, my life has been good. I want you to close your eyes right now. And I want you to just say that to the Lord. I want you to say it with honesty. Because you stand and you face God. And you say, but wait, Pastor, I can't because I got this, and you don't know about that thing that I did back there. And Jesus' blood is sufficient for all of that. He takes all of that. All things work together for the good of those that love God and according to his purposes. Are you willing to love God and trust him enough with all of that stuff, with all of your past? Say that, all of my past. Are you willing to do that right now enough to where you can say, you know what, Jesus, I messed up, I made a lot of mistakes, but my life is good because you made me, and what I messed up on, you forgave me. I now choose to be innocent because you make a way for me to be innocent. And I declare, so right now, just close your eyes one more time. I want you to say, my life is good.